Hello everybody, we are back. Alasdair, are you happy about the new jingle?
I'm delighted. I had to mute my microphone to stop me singing along again.
Well, it's back. I found it, so it's back again. With us again, there is Federico Farcomeni. Hello Federico, how are you today?
Vittorio, hi Ali, everyone. All good?
So, finally we're talking about a victory of Lazio after a not very nice period for the Biancocelesti. It was an easy match, we can say, but how important was to see Ciro Immobile and Felipe Anderson scoring again?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we talked about after the Torino game, wasn't it? The fact that it would be good in a way to actually use this game as an opportunity to play the big players and get them some of their confidence back. And it's quite good to see that happening tonight. Obviously, Immobile is going to be suspended for Sunday, but the fact that he's managed to score twice will hopefully, give him a bit more belief in front of goal, because it was a difficult spell for him. And like we were saying on Sunday, when it's going badly for Immobile, it tends to go badly for Lazio. And yeah, like you say as well, Anderson, brilliant, because it's his first start of the season, and he scores straight away. So hopefully he can kick on from there and become a really big influence from now on.
Federico, what's your thoughts about Felipe Anderson performance today?
In terms of Felipe, I thought he was playing a bit, like the other game, a bit light, perhaps. I don't know. I can't see him probably like 100% fit, but maybe it's just an illusion. Maybe he's just not going to be back to a couple of seasons ago anyway. So I just have to accept he's a completely changed player. Probably Simone Inzaghi asking him different tasks as well. So in terms of minutes under his belt and all that stuff, definitely very good. Obviously, for his confidence scoring, he played 64 minutes, so it's obviously very positive. And I think in terms of the lineup as well, probably we could expect a bit more, changes or second fiddle formation. But in fact, most of the first team has played, to be honest. And I think he was made on purpose, obviously, by Simone.
I think Felipe obviously didn't play as his top level, but that was expected. But I don't know if you agree, seeing Felipe Anderson playing in the near Ciro Immobile up front there. He will never become a striker, but he's so fast that it's very dangerous when he's near the box. Again, maybe today it's obvious, but too often he switch off the light. He stopped playing and then he turns it on again, and is incredible.
Mm-hmm. I think it makes him unpredictable though. Yeah, it's true.
It's probably, it will take him a while to get match sharpness back. I mean, it is, like I said before, it's his first start he's had all season. So I think you can allow him a bit of time to get going. But yeah, it's also a new role, because he's obviously played on the wing for Lazio up until this point, and now he's back in a number 10 position, I suppose. But you have to remember as well that when we signed him, we did actually sign him as a number 10, where he'd been playing for Santos. He'd been playing behind Neymar over there, I think. So it's not a role he's going to be completely unfamiliar with, but it might take him a bit of time to readjust to it. But from what we saw, the glimpses we saw in pre-season, we got very excited about what he could do in that position. So I think the question is, without Immobile to play off, what's the relationship going to be like with presumably Caicedo on Sunday?
Mm-hmm. Ramiel Gandhi on Twitter said Felipe played in the role Keita played last year. Do you agree?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
Well, they're different players. Keita is more near number 9, while Felipe Anderson is probably more number 10. But yeah, he was playing pretty much in that position. Obviously, they have different skills, and they show it. But I really believe that could be the position where Felipe Anderson could be really, really dangerous. And thinking about Felipe Anderson, when after the chance he had, I thought, okay, now he's going to miss it as usual. Instead, he scored. So that was a nice surprise.
That's true, probably because these simple things are starting to happen. So they need to happen at some point. But would you see him like, I don't know, inverted winger, or it might be interesting, or do you think that's the best position for him? It should be, but I'm not totally sure. Maybe he's got other qualities as well. You can deploy up front in other different positions.
I think it'll certainly be Inzaghi's intention to play him in that role, because I mean we spoke about this quite a few times already, because we've been waiting for so long to actually come back from injury. But within this system, which Inzaghi looks pretty determined to keep, he's either going to play there or as a wing back, really, and a wing back's not necessarily his natural role because he's not a defensive player. So he kind of has to play there unless there's an entirely new change of system. But I suppose that once Inzaghi actually gets all these guys fully fit, Anderson, Nani, and Alberto, it'd be quite interesting to see if he does start to actually tinker a bit with the formation, and because so far he's been very much sticking to his guns, but then again he's also been fighting with injury problems, suspension problems, and so on.
One thing I liked today was that Felipe Anderson and Milinkovic-Savic was often changing position, and so at times Milinkovic-Savic was more near Ciro Immobile, while Felipe Anderson was playing like a trequartista. This is something with Luis Alberto we don't see very often, because I always get the impression that Luis Alberto tried to get more close to the midfielder rather than close to Ciro Immobile. And this is something that can create, that can make Lazio even more dangerous, because the defender doesn't know if they have to follow Felipe Anderson and then create the hole for Milinkovic-Savic, or give space to Felipe Anderson and then go marking Milinkovic-Savic. I think this is a very interesting option, one that I really was looking forward to see, and we didn't have the chance, obviously, because Felipe was injured. But one of the reasons I think Lazio was struggling the last month or so was it was too obvious how Lazio was playing. Now with Felipe Anderson and Milinkovic playing a little bit closer to the striker, this can change a lot. I don't know if it's only my impression.
Yeah, it definitely gives more options as well. But looking also at today's stats, who's the player that Felipe passed the ball the most? It's Murgia, and it's 12, so it's quite surprising somehow, because you tend to think he will probably do something else, but in fact he was playing more centrally behind him anyway, probably because he wanted give it to him and then run into space, or but this shows that in fact he's really a multi-skilled player somehow. So it's good to have him back in every role you want, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And even Wallace scored, so everybody.
It was an own goal. Was it an own goal?
Yeah, probably it's an own goal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's been recorded as an own goal, which is it's kind of sad, because it would have been quite a nice way for him to return as well. having the two guys back from injury at the same time, but. If I was a centre back and I don't score very often, I would just claim that, just stay at your goal.
Yeah. In fact, he didn't even jump. I mean, obviously he was there, and he deserved the goal to be given to him, because the other guy, the defender, was like clinging to him, like was bringing him down, but he didn't come down, but still, ball went in, so he deserved the goal anyway, I think.
Yeah.
It's also.
Go on.
Sorry, while we're talking about all the goal scorers, and I also just wanted to flag up that Lucas Leiva got another 2 assists tonight, and the guy's on fire at the moment in terms of a creative sense. Obviously, his goal and assist in the Europa League recently as well. So I think that's been really encouraging in recent games, and maybe has gone under the radar a bit, is that Lucas, who up until this point we haven't seen too much of in terms of a creative or attacking sense, has actually started to contribute a bit more in that end of the pitch recently, which obviously is more than welcome at a time when Lazio have been struggling.
Yes, I agree. Let's not forget that it's the first season for Lucas Leiva in Serie A, and Premier League is a completely different type of football. So it's not easy to adapt to this different way of playing. I think he did it really, really well, especially in giving that extra wall for Lazio defense. But now he's showing up even a little bit as a playmaker. And today the assist he made to Felipe Anderson, it was amazing. Then you can say, it's against Cittadella, okay, but still I'm seeing him growing a lot, and I believe he's becoming more and more leader as well. So that's really interesting and exciting to see.
Yeah, and also because it's you say it's Cittadella, but in fact I think he showed consistency regardless of the opposition. So it's great, because we know some players, I don't know, like Lukaku, United, they tend to light up against bottom teams, but in fact Lucas Leiva is showing that he can do against bottom clubs, but also top teams. So it's good. Tonight he had like 75 passes, which was the most in general, 89 touches of the ball, the most again amongst Lazio players. So it just speaks volumes, and to be honest, in my case it really surprises me, because it's even better than Lucas Biglia, I think. in some respects. Obviously we've lost on set pieces, definitely, but in every other thing.
I would disagree with that, actually, because Lazio, I think in terms of set pieces, Lazio are the top scorers in Europe at one point.
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, in that case, yes. But I mean, in terms of he's not as good as Lucas Biglia on set pieces, Lucas Leiva, I mean. But in every other thing he does, is even better, and is being consistent throughout the season, which it's for me at least is a surprise. So I'm happy about it.
I don't know if you agree. I think Lucas Leiva is a better fit for Lazio, or for at least how Lazio is playing now, than Biglia.
It's true.
He's a wall in front of the defense, and at the same time he's able to move the ball around. Maybe Biglia is more a playmaker, but Lucas Leiva is showing that he can do these things. And for me, the most important thing is he has that international experience that Biglia didn't have, especially at a high level. And you can see it in the key matches.
The other thing with Biglia, I think, was that the team became too dependent on him. Lazio became quite slow and predictable with him in the team. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a top player, but Lazio always he would pick the ball up from the defenders and get his head up and look and see what he could create. And that seemed to be the entire strategy a lot of the time, was just waiting for Biglia to do something. Whereas now there's a lot more. It's a much more complete team, I think. And Lucas plays a very important role in that, but it's allowed to kind of distribute the influence or the creativity among the team as a whole, rather than just on one player's shoulders, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Rami Algendi is asking updates on Luis Alberto. He was not present today. Will he be fit Sunday? Well, it looks like he should be able to recover. Now it's not 100% certain, but Luis Alberto would be able to recover for Atalanta Lazio, who is. It looks to be a very complicated match. Atalanta beat it.
Yeah, Luis Alberto was in the stands anyway.
Yeah.
At least.
So, it would be complicated to go to Bergamo without Immobile, Luis Alberto, both So we hope that Luis Alberto will be able to recover, even though this Felipe Anderson hasn't got 90 minutes. But for the first half, he played well, I believe. We have a new follower. I don't know how to pronounce it because Lazio is Lazio, but then there's 2 words in Japanese, so I'm sorry, I don't know. Lazio something, I will say.
Come on, Vittorio, do your research. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who's asking news about De Vrij Renew's contract? Do we have any news about that?
No, but just I think some guys from Barcelona were in the stands for the game against Torino, so it's not ideal. It means that something is still boiling down somehow. So we have to see.
And the fact that we are closer to January, it doesn't sound good for Lazio. After January, he will be able to sign contract with whichever teams he wants. So Lazio have to close the deal as soon as possible. And the fact that they didn't still starts to scares me, honestly.
Yeah, and the other kind of the other kind of worrying thing about that is that you really want this to have been sorted out by now, because if it gets into a period where he's able to sign a pre-contract, you don't want it to be something that ends up overshadowing the rest of the team and having an influence on the dressing room in any way, which you can imagine it potentially could have a bit of a negative impact, not just on him and his performances, but on the rest of the team if there's question marks over his future throughout the rest of the season. So I'd like to see them really get that tied up as soon as possible, and I'd hope that the international break was an opportunity to do that, because Brian wasn't called up for the Holland squad. But obviously nothing happened then. So, in terms of news, we've been, you get glimmers of hope drip fed to you over time, and nothing seems to be happening. So I think we just have to wait.
Federico,
the thing is that we expected some pace, obviously, after the game at Waregem in Belgium, because they were supposed to have a meeting there, but nothing leaked from the alleged meeting, at least. So it's it could be positive because they don't want to let obviously, but at the same time, it could be negative as well. So yeah, as you said, we just have to wait a bit more, and although it's 14th of December, obviously, so it's not good. But the fact that we're playing through until 6th of January, we have so many more games. Maybe they need to see, they need to meet each other. They need to, there's not going to be like a big winter break before 6th of January anyway. So they need to take these days to have some other meetings and talk to each other and see if they can clear up their minds about the situation.
Let's say they're running out of time, unfortunately, which is the most scaring thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Christopher Thomas on Twitter, the good thing about Lucas Leiva, obviously, is he just does the job. He goes on to the park and more often than not makes things happen.
Yeah, well, he's definitely been making things happen in recent games, and he is. He's just a very dependable player. His level of consistency has been one of the most impressive things about him since he came in, because he's not had any experience playing in Serie A before. So it's something we talked about before when we named him the signing of the season so far, was the fact that you would usually allow a new signing some time to settle in, but he hasn't needed it. So yeah, I think we're actually seeing him get better. It's not just been consistently the same performance. I think he's actually improved this season, and hopefully can continue to, because he's one of these players who's been around for so long that you could be forgiven for thinking he's older than he is just because you've heard his name around for so long. But he's not. He's 30 years old, so he's still got plenty more to give.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, talking about Lucas Leiva, we cannot quote Greek staff that said "model professional always." And Patrick Bowman is asking, so the brilliant Leva played 90 minutes today. Does it mean he won't play Sunday? No, I hope he plays. Absolutely, we need him. So I don't believe that this will this means that he's not playing Sunday. I hope you agree, right?
Yeah, he should be in the team. Yeah.
This brings me to another question. Were you surprised that Leiva, Milinkovic, De Vrij started, and De Vrij and Lucas Leiva finished the match today?
Maybe, but as I was telling you before, I think the lineup was not a chance. Even I don't know, Guerrieri could have played instead of Strakowski. Yeah. I think, and probably we expected, I don't know, to see one at least between Pedro Neto and Bruno Jordao. I mean, this was a perfect game for them. But I think, it just Simone Inzaghi, after what happened against Torino, and then Lazio fans being at Formello, 1,000 of them to tell the team, we're with you. We want to be stronger than our destiny, which was the message on the banner. So he wanted to take all this rage and put it on the pitch rather than, not playing those players, because, he wanted to grab the chance of, this game, win it with those players. So I think it was, intentional to play them exactly because of what happened on Monday. Because if the result on Monday would have been different, then probably we would have seen more changes. But because of that and because of what happened, then that was the final lineup.
Yeah, I agree completely. I said on Monday while we were doing the podcast, that I expected Inzaghi to put out a strong team for this game and kind of take out their anger on it. So I wasn't surprised to see him play that kind of, the core of the team, the De Vrij, Lucas, Milinkovic-Savic and Immobile. But I completely agree with you, Federico, in terms of, I think this was a great opportunity to actually put in Guerrieri without really being at risk of that being, having an adverse effect on the game. And likewise, when you're 3-1 up and you've got, 10 minutes to go, why not throw in one of the young guys? The Lazio fans have been, desperate to have a look at one of these Portuguese kids since they arrived in the summer. So I think that's basically a free shot to give them a run out and see and see how they do. So I think that was perhaps a bit of a missed opportunity. It was a bit surprising to see his final substitution, bringing on Luis Felipe for Wallace, unless Wallace just isn't fit enough to finish the match. But I think there was only 5 more minutes to go. So yeah, perhaps a missed opportunity there, but otherwise, selection-wise, not too surprised.
Yeah, especially because, let's be honest, this is probably the last chance Guerrieri, Jordao and Neto had to play, because with the season going forward, I mean, they're not going to play in Coppa Italia at Lazio Fiorentina or Europe League because we're not in the group stage anymore. I was really curious to see Guerrieri play, and honestly, I got a little bit excited when Jordao start warming up and Inzaghi said that he was the next coming in, and I don't know why he switched. He brought in Lulic instead. Did we really need Lulic to come in? So that's the only thing I didn't like about the match.
Perhaps bringing on Lulic was to have a look at him in the central role, which is something where obviously Lulic has been someone we've discussed a lot on this podcast, but he's played so much at left wing back, and we have kind of considered whether he'd be better off in the centre midfield. So perhaps that's just something that Inzaghi wanted to have a look at, and also giving some rest to Milinkovic-Savic at the same time.
Yeah, but put Jordao. It's already 3-1, I think. It's 10 minutes missing. It's going to be really hard to think that Cittadella can change everything, So it was a good chance. I'm not saying that, it's a terrible mistake, but probably it's the only chance we had to see those 2 young Portuguese players. So
something I wanted to ask you guys about was, I mean, now that you've said that, how seriously do you, first of all, think we should take the Coppa Italia yourself from now on? And also, how seriously do you expect Inzaghi to take it? Because, I mean, it's the quarterfinals now, Fiorentina, but it's if we get through that, it's one of the Milan clubs in the semi-finals. And then you're in the final, obviously, if you get through that. So it's actually a decent run to the final here, where you avoid Juventus, Napoli, and Roma as well. So it's quite a good chance of being in the final if Lazio put a full strength team into this tournament. But do you think that's something we should be doing with the Europa League and Champions League to fight for it in Serie A as well?
I don't know what you mean for full team. For example, you can play Felipe Anderson in Coppa Italia, Nani in Coppa Italia, and Luis Alberto in Serie A, etc. So I think at the moment Lazio has the chance to play a good team in Coppa Italia as well, without withdrawing from the Serie A. You can play two good teams in both competition. You have Murgia that is not playing in Serie A. He's good enough for me to compete with Milan and Inter. He showed it last season. Don't forget that Lazio beat Inter at San Siro with Murgia playing. So I believe Lazio has enough good players to compete for winning the Coppa Italia without making Luis Alberto play every single match.
Because also, if you have a look at the dates, so next one obviously is Boxing Day against Fiorentina, and we keep playing at home. That's the point, 20 years ago, remember, we used to play lots of the first rounds away, and it was a miracle if we get to a home game, or I don't know, or we might lose against Avellino at home in August or whatever. But now we get the chance always to enter it's quite easy to get to the final. And in fact, as you were saying, avoiding Juve, Roma, and Napoli in the same part of the draw, they are in the opposite part. Obviously, it's another massive chance, and you play home against Fiorentina. So then, in the semi-finals you play 31st of January, and the Europa League won't be around, and the other one should be 28th of February. So yes, Europa League at that point will be around. So probably if you make it to the semis, obviously that's the game. That's the key game, because then between semi-finals and the final it's ages. It's just 9th of May when the final is scheduled. So it's more than 2 months. So yes, you have time to do it if you want to do it. But the thing is, I think Milan will be happy if they make it to the final, because I don't know, and Inter, they don't have Europe, so the only chance. Obviously, they will want to win the league, obviously, but if they can win the league and the cup, probably they wouldn't be too sad about that. So, it's.
But I think even them will try to rotate a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Although, Inter yes, but Milan, I'm not sure, because yes, Milan might want to get to the final stages of the Europa League, but in fact, in the league. I don't know. We'll have to see where they are in between January and February to know what Gattuso is going to do.
Yeah, but I still believe there's going to be a little bit of rotation of the players even for AC Milan. So honestly, I believe even changing a couple of players, Lazio will still have a team good enough to beat AC Milan and Inter. So.
If we beat Fiorentina, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
We have to see.
No VAR decisions, please.
Hopefully not.
No. And even against Fiorentina, you have to see which type of formation Pioli would choose for.
Yeah, he plays. Yeah.
Because let's not forget the 23 days Serie A, so it's only 3 days before Coppa Italia, so I believe they're going to change something too. So it's going to be interesting, but remembering even how Lazio performed in Coppa Italia, I think Lazio has a decent team to compete on all three competition. Obviously, this doesn't mean that Lazio can beat Juventus all the time, but AC Milan already beat it easily. Inter, I think there is the chance to play at the same level with all of them, and then we see what happens. Obviously, I'm not saying that Lazio will beat them easily, all of them, but I think it's an open competition there.
Yeah, but in terms of, obviously, we probably talked about this in the past, but, obviously the formula of the Coppa Italia as well is is not really, it's good for us, but it's not really,
no,
how can
you're
you
right.
It doesn't give emotions.
The example of Cittadella was perfect. They should take example from the French league and the Premier League, and open it up to all the professional and semi-professional teams in Italy, and start, from July and go on from there. And even though we prefer, because Lazio play at home, it would be more fair and more interesting if it was the other way around, right? The favorite team playing away. One, because maybe you are able to have all the time full stadiums.
House.
Yeah. And second, because maybe the match is more excited. Lazio was coming from a particular situation, etc., but they closed the match after 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And also the Olympic, I don't know why, but they keep opening up the top tier of the stands as well. I mean, if you do like Tevere, you just open up the lower part, and it's probably a bit better atmosphere, I think, in terms of closeness to the team, because otherwise it's very sparse crowd. So I don't know, they probably need to find a way as well to make it bit more compact, because when it's not enough people anyway, you can make it a bit more compact around the pitch. That's difficult at the Olympic, obviously.
Now with Atalanta Lazio coming next Sunday, again a night match. Lazio, I don't know how many match at night did they play recently. I think all of them.
Consecutive.
Consecutive. It's gonna be a complicated match. Atalanta beat Genoa on Tuesday. I believe.
I didn't expect that.
No, neither did I. Honestly, I thought Genoa could win it, but I think that the moral there is very high. After qualifying for Europe League, I think the team is very confident. So it's gonna be a big challenge for Lazio, a challenge without Immobile. Who's going to play? Do you think Casado?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't think we have too many other options, really, unless Inzaghi was going to just try pitting Felipe Anderson and Alberto alongside each other and see what happens. But Caicedo's the only available natural striker, so I would expect him to start that game, and I'd expect him to be a bit upset if he didn't, to be honest. He's been waiting for quite a long time to have a chance, and now he's got one. So I think, you're right to point out Atalanta, playing in Europe. I know, Federico, you went to see them against Everton, but this is almost kind of bad timing for us, because the Europa League campaign has meant so much for Atalanta, and they've obviously done brilliantly well to top a group with Everton and Lyon in it, which is that's a phenomenal achievement. But now they're finished with that, so now they can focus on Serie A again until February. And obviously they did really well last year, and it's still more or less the same team. Some really dangerous players. So I don't know. It's not necessarily the game you want after all the drama of Monday night.
Especially because Papu Gomez tend to score every time against Lazio.
Papu, but last season I think it was Petagna scoring both games.
Incredible. The only goal he scored.
I think so. But hey, to be honest with you, if Immobile was there, we would have played same formation probably for the 9th consecutive time. But so he has to change. He's forced to change after 8 league games. But probably Caicedo is, as you were saying, is the most likely option, of course. And as Ali was saying, Atalanta, they're really incredibly confident, and I think also they probably fancy their chances as well against Borussia Dortmund in the Europa League. I don't know if Dortmund are going to improve under the new coach, Peter Stoger, but in fact, if they were playing Dortmund now, I'm quite sure they will go through because of, it's been a very bad season for Dortmund, whereas it's been a fantastic season for Atalanta, so it's not really ideal. But we can draw encouragement from last season as well. In the first game of the season, and we won there 4-3, and also only Napoli have gained more points than Lazio in away games in Serie A this season. So that's all another plus. So it will be very, very interesting game, obviously, as usual. Normally I remember when. Even 30 years ago, we could never beat Atalanta, and it was like our bestia nera, a bogey team. Yeah. But things have changed somehow, and we have to make sure they stay the same.
Away from the Olimpico, Lazio won all the match this season. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's really unbelievable, considering that Lazio played even away at Torino against Juventus.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Do you think Lazio Inzaghi will opt for the 3-4-1-2, or will he stick with Luis Alberto back to the 3-5-1-1?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think Federico's right. I think he probably will kind of keep more or less the same team, but obviously being forced into one change. Yeah. I think I think he's probably right to do that, because the players who played on Monday night aren't going to be happy about what happened. That much is obvious. So in order to actually try and channel that into a positive performance, he's actually got something to use there, and obviously it was a horrible way to lose a game, but with what you were mentioning, with the fans turning up at Formello to watch the training, and the kind of response we've had from the players and the coach and so on, this could still be the kind of turning point that Lazio needed, almost, to get them, to wake them up, to get some fire in their belly again. I'm hoping so. I'm trying to find a kind of positive from it, I suppose, but they do definitely have a point to prove now, and I think feeling like the world's against you can be a good thing, because you might make them fight a bit harder.
Talking about this, there's this, I think, wonderful email Nigel Gann sent to Serie A, Lega Calcio, about the incredible mistakes happen against Lazio. Well, it's too long to read it all, but basically he's asking to improve the VAR. It's a good system, but if still a referee can put his personal judgment, then it will never work. So he's asking them to revise it, to improve it, and at the same time he's telling that Lazio fan will never give up, which is what's already happening. So I think it's nice to see it from fans all over the world writing an email like that.
It's interesting. Where you found this?
He sent a copy to us as well, to the one he sent to Serie A and Lega Calcio, etc.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good. But
talking about
the thing is the machines are taking over. That's that's the problem. Because they're using us, the Italian league, or to experiment. But then FA Cup in January, Brighton v Crystal Palace, will be there, and eventually it will be in the Premier League as well, and it will be everywhere. It will start, I think, in La Liga, I think 2019. So it's it's going to happen anyway. But as we said, it needs to be perfected, obviously. So they're using Serie A to to trial it, to test it, to see what's wrong, and then probably they will do they will make it better in Don't know, maybe next season, maybe in a couple of seasons. So
But the problem is
hopefully
not
our sacrifice. Yeah.
the problem is not the technology. It's the fact that still Giacomelli made the wrong decision, and instead of using the technology for the penalty that was obvious, use it for the header, and he made the mistake even there using the technology. Don't believe it's VAR problem. It's both referee.
How you use it. Yeah, how you use it. Yeah.
It's the power, isn't it? I think that the power has to be distributed to the clubs instead, and where they have the chance to make these calls and decide when to challenge a call.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you suggested this before, Vittorio, like a tennis-style system. It makes far more sense than just asking the referees to do it themselves, because then there's no way these moments are going to end, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I hope this issue will speed up the things to solve this problem. But we already talked about the VAR enough. One thing about today that left me a little bit disappointed was the defense. I thought De Vrij played really, really with no concentration. He made a couple of stupid mistakes that are not something he usually does. Do you think he was too sure to win? I don't know. Wasn't concentrated enough? Was maybe thinking about the contract? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I think it's possible to be a bit complacent in a match like this, because he's been playing so well all season that perhaps a Serie B team comes to the Olimpico and he feels like he can take his foot off the pedal a bit, which is unfortunate if that is the case. But I don't know. They still only scored one goal, and it was a pretty phenomenal hit from distance. So yes, they did create chances and so on, but I wouldn't go in too harshly on him.
Okay. Philippe Pezzano today wrote us on Twitter, "I'm looking forward to see Murgia play again in tonight's game. Every game I try to analyze his best qualities. What do you think they are?" Federico?
Murgia's.
Yep.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's difficult because I normally, when I saw him next to Lucas Leiva, and I expect him obviously to more go into the space. But for instance, in terms of ball recovery, obviously that's what Lucas Leiva is supposed to do. And again, he did it perfectly tonight. Somehow we had like 10 possessions gained, whereas Murgia's been the player who's lost more possession tonight, which is, I don't know, probably due to the way he plays. He could have scored at the end, the fifth goal, I think, when they went on the counter with Immobile. Seemed like a rugby counter, but I don't know. It's main qualities, I think, is just probably his vision in some moments. He knows when to attack the space. Probably needs to perfect that, the very moment he needs to send himself into the space, probably. I don't know. I don't know what you think about it.
I think he's got a really good engine. I think he's a typical kind of box-to-box midfielder is his best role, in my opinion, a kind of Marco Parolo 2.0. I think the problem is he's not really been given one position to kind of try and focus on, and he's been even tried as a wing back this season. He's been tried in a more kind of regista role in the middle, which I don't think suits him actually. Like you're pointing out, Federico, I think the kind of playmaker role, and I'm not convinced with him in that position. But I think as a mezzala, as someone who kind of gets up and down the pitch and contributes in attack and defence, I think that's where he's at his best. The winning goal he scored in the Super Coppa was him making one of those late runs into the box, and you do see him get into really good attacking positions like he did tonight. I mean, yeah, he didn't finish it off tonight, but he's still making the run and getting into the right positions. So I think that's his best role, but I think that he's not really being given enough opportunities to try and perfect it with Inzaghi.
I believe he has so many qualities that this could be a problem. That's why Inzaghi tried him in different position. I believe, as Alasdair was saying, he's more play like Parolo, box to box. But at the same time, I think he can play as a playmaker. He can play as a trequartista. He has different skills. Probably he's more a complete player than Cataldi, let's say.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's where I wanted to take the discussion, actually, because I remember last year having a very heated conversation with a friend about this, because I was defending Cataldi, but then obviously now I have to say yes, I was totally wrong, because of how things have spiraled and how the situation has evolved. So in any case, we're better off with Murgia. We have to recognize this, not only because of the goals he scored, obviously, but because, apparently Cataldi was not even a Laziale at heart, whereas Murgia is. So and if you think about 1 year ago, it seems almost impossible to think, Murgia is gonna make the step up. But, in fact, he has made it somehow, although, as Ali said, he probably hasn't been given enough chances, but he keeps growing and that's very, very positive. We probably need to adjust a bit to, as you said, to the position, to the goal, to the, but it's improving constantly.
And one thing very important is that Inzaghi tried him in different position. If I'm not wrong, against Vitesse, he was playing nearly on the left side, very, very on the side, to make space for Lukaku to push, etc. And so he's playing in various positions, but even if he's not playing always in the same position, you see him grow. He's not making steps back, which is good, especially considering that he's not playing regularly. So I like that fact, and I would love to see him playing a little bit more in Serie A, but I understand that it's not easy when in front of you have Milinkovic-Savic, Luis Alberto, Parolo, Lucas Leiva. It's tough to give him space, but at least he's always concentrated. He always plays at his maximum when he comes in, which is good from a youngster.
Yeah, it's true though. Vitesse was 3-5-1-1, and he was like Di Gennaro in between Parolo and Murgia. So I don't remember exactly his performance there, but he scored. So yeah. I think it was somehow it was good.
For me, one of the most surprising things has been that Vittorio, remember doing the Super Coppa podcast, and you said at the time how many coaches would be willing to throw on a young player into that game with such high stakes, and giving him a lot of praise for that substitution. And I think on the back of that, obviously being right at the start of the season, I expected to see him as a substitute a lot more often. Obviously, yes, it's not going to be easy for him to get into this midfield, but it's been really surprising how infrequently he's actually been used as a substitute, even for 20, 30 minutes at the end of a game. And it's obviously not the same as starting a match, but it's still good experience, and those minutes do add up in terms of your development. So I don't know, I think that's something that's kind of surprised me a bit.
Well, if you remember, if I'm not wrong, in that match he came in for Lucas Leiva, who still didn't have the 90 minutes. After that, I think all the subs Inzaghi made was the wingers and one striker. So that's probably the reason why Murgia didn't play that much. And I don't know you, but even if Milinkovic-Savic is not playing very well, if I can choose, I'll never take him off, because you know that he can change the match in 1 minute without giving you any sign, like he did against Nice. He's that type of player. So I wish Murgia would play more, but I a little bit understand why he's not.
Well, but I mean, then there's Parolo, who's we just compared him to. So that's the kind of obvious one for me. Is I'm not talking about bringing him on for Parolo every single weekend in the same way that Lukaku's been replacing Lulic almost every single weekend, but just more opportunities sprinkled throughout the season. Parolo, I'm sure he would never want to come off, but he's one of our older players. We want to save his legs for the whole season. We don't want him to run himself into fatigue or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, yes, he's always tended to change the wing backs and the striker, but he doesn't always have to do that. Not every match is the same. So I think there have been opportunities there for Moja to have time. And for instance, Inzaghi's recently taken to swapping centre backs as one of his substitutions, and that's not always necessarily an obvious change either. So I think he has had opportunities to bring on Moja, but he hasn't taken them.
Patrick Bowman is saying, I do not doubt Cataldi's Laziale, even though that Pandev goal, he's still helping Laziale with charity and stuff like that, Chiara Insidioso and more, for example. No one doubts.
It's tough to say. Can I tell you my personal experience with Cataldi?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, after the derby last year, we lost 2-0. Obviously, the only thing of that derby I liked was that he got involved even if he was on the bench and he got sent off.
Yeah.
And, unfair. It was totally unfair. But, because he was probably the only one to try go and face Strootman or Roma players for what they were doing and stuff like that. I loved him just for that. So I met him, and so obviously he got suspended, and they couldn't play in Genoa against Sampdoria the following weekend. And I met him on the Friday, I think, before the game, and I just got close to him and I say thank you, and he looked at me like saying, "Are you messing around?" And I said, "No, thank you, because." It's not normal. I love what you've done in the derby. Thank you for defending us. It's not something normally everyone does. And he didn't say anything, and he just walked away. I think he started probably to ponder what would it mean to embody actually some Lazio spirit in the games, and probably being too much too supernatural perhaps. But I had the feeling he probably, he escaped from it. Since then, since that game, he hasn't been. He probably felt he wasn't ready to do it at some points. I don't know, or to sacrifice his own career because of that. Maybe that's another option. I don't know.
I don't know. I had the impression that after the first season at Lazio, he felt he was already a star. He acted a little bit too much as being a star. He didn't like when he lost his job, etc. I believe you in football you never have to feel like you are the star. You already arrived. You're a champion. You always have to improve. I believe one of the reasons why he didn't improve is because 2 years ago he felt, okay, I'm a star. I'm a champion. Everybody's talking about me, that I have to go to the national team, that I'm the best midfielder in Italy, etc. And he stopped improving.
I agree.
Yeah. I think,
go on.
Sorry. I think something perhaps he suffered from was the hype around him, and I think a lot of the hype also came from the fact that Lazio at that time were so starved of a young Roman Lazio supporting player from the youth team, because now it's probably easier for Moja because he's seen Cataldi, Lombardi, as well. Strakosha's come in. There's been since Inzaghi's arrived, at least there's been a lot more players coming into the first team, but it wasn't like that when Cataldi stepped up. So perhaps Lazio fans he was instantly, called a bandiera and kind of labelled as being a future Lazio captain, and perhaps that kind of, like Federico's saying, that weight of expectation is probably a bit too much for a player. Maybe he's a bit overestimated.
Okay, I understand, but if you're smart enough, after a couple of months, you realize that you've gone too far and start to recover. And instead, he didn't. And the fact that Inzaghi sent him away last year tells you a lot. Knowing how Inzaghi treats youngster, etc. The fact that he was sent to Genoa makes me believe that he never want to really, improve, to learn, to give everything in the training, and
yeah, that's as you say, it's true. It's about, you didn't give yourself a chance because you gave for granted that, okay, manager doesn't like me, so I'm off. But instead, we probably should have stayed to prove him wrong, or to get his more chances going forward. So probably something else happened behind the scenes because of the breakup. It was just too sudden, I think, at some point. And also, as you say, he felt it was there, it was arrived. Today I was in at the Italian Cultural Institute in London, and there was a Gazette Award given to Jermaine Defoe, and 161 goals in the Premier League. And his secret, because of what he said, obviously was, the fact he's never felt he was there. He's never felt he had arrived. He always felt he wanted to improve. He wanted to take example from the older players, from, even from Paolo Di Canio, said when he was at West Ham, obviously. But he kept doing that throughout his career, and he's doing it still now that, he's approaching probably his 40s at some point, but, he just keeps scoring and playing at a very high level. And that's the secret, to keep growing and to get there. But as you said, if you feel you've arrived, that's where your problems probably start.
And the fact that he wasn't called for the summer training this year again tells you there's something wrong there.
Yeah, in the relationship, probably. Yeah, there was a breakup, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think what happened with Strakosha, 2 summers ago, he was he didn't play one single minute in any summer friendly, and he was close to going to Southampton or another English team, now I don't remember. And then from being the third goalkeeper, he's starting to be the starting goalkeeper. So Inzaghi give a chance to everybody if they prove to be good, obviously, but to give everything in training. So I believe Cataldi wasted the chance, which Murcia didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. So Sunday there is Atalanta-Lazio, a very complicated match. Do you see Inzaghi playing the same formation against Torino without Immobile?
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of spoke about this before, didn't we? We basically
Lukaku didn't convince you today.
Well, I thought Lukaku looked okay. He's an incredibly attacking-minded player, isn't he? I mean, his position, his kind of average position must have been over the halfway line, and yeah, he was actually in the second half anyway, getting himself into really good positions and delivered a couple of really good crosses. But I still think Lulic is probably going to be favoured in that position for now. I don't know how many bad performances Lulic is going to be allowed before he's dropped, but it might also be a matter of Lukaku having to really, really impress again before he's going to actually get into the first team.
Federico?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a chance to, but 3-5-2, but he won't. I don't know. He probably won't do it, and. I don't know. Do you expect to start Lukaku as well? No. Maybe Lulic will be back.
Well, I think Lazio needs someone like that to create problems to the defense. Going one-on-one with Lukaku, it's complicated. So maybe they're gonna double mark him, and this will free some space for Felipe Anderson or Caicedo in the center. So.
Yeah, it depends on Atalanta setup as well. So it depends who plays there on the right. I was trying to check, but
l'ultima chance di risollevare una stagione storta si è
but
L'ultima chance di
well, it could
risollevare
be
una
an
stagione
interesting
storta si è
1v1.
L'ultima
as you say,
chance
but
di risollevare
I
una
don't know.
stagione
He has
storta
showed,
si è
that he needs
L'ultima
to
chance di risollevare una
get into
stagione
the rhythm
storta si è
of the game. So if it's very intense from the start, then yes, maybe he's got a chance to impress and to keep doing well throughout the game. But we have to check. We have to see. And also they're gonna play. I think they're gonna play 3-4-1-2. I think so. Somehow similar in shape. Probably less congested midfield because Ilicic will be behind the two strikers. But that's an interesting setup.
For closing the show, prediction for Sunday?
You go first, Ali.
I'm gonna go for a repeat of last season and go for the 4-3 Lazio win.
Federico?
That would be fantastic, but I don't know. I'd like to win, but probably 1-1 draw is more likely.
Yeah, I fear, especially without Immobile. It could be a 2-2 though, because both teams scores a lot.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that in my 4-3, Caicedo is scoring all 4 goals.
Okay, that's impossible.
That's where you're putting your money this weekend.
What a dream. Okay, good.
Not Felipe Anderson and Caicedo scoring 4.
4.
Caicedo, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Leave 1 to Felipe.
Yeah, at least.
Hat-trick will be good anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. He will score more goals in one match than all last season, so I think it's fine for him.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining the show, and we'll talk Sunday after Atalanta-Lazio, hoping to see Lazio collecting other 3 points and chasing again the Champions League spot. Thank you, Federico.
Hope so. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Alasdair.
Cheers. See you next time.
And remember, guys, you can follow us on iTunes, on iHeartRadio as well now, on our YouTube channel, and obviously on Twitter and Facebook. Bye, everybody, and always Forza Lazio.